we go. Let me see now. Let me give you a little background information. About 2 years ago, well, the reverb is something else, isn't it? About 2 years ago, I terminated my my long-standing relationship with Warner Brothers Records, and of course, in the interim, things have changed quite a bit since the time I first started making records. And in the old days, you know, music was what it was all about. Nowadays, it's hitchhiking naked in Florida. And so I had to sort of make a reassessment. You know, how do I get back in the groove here? You know, what am I going to do about all this computer knowledge I've been accumulating and stuff like that? So I hit on the concept of interactive music and started recording the music for this project. And recently we finished writing the computer code and the other stuff and putting it on a CDI disc, which is now inside the CDI player right here. And the main difference between a regular CD, which is not interactive, and an interactive CD like this is, the non-interactive CD is going to be the same every time you put it in to the machine. But this CD is going to be potentially different every time you play it, according to what you tell it to do. In other words, it listens to you. It's interested in what you have to say, in your opinion about what's going on, and it will try and build you an album that conforms to your preferences. Now, one thing I want to point out before I start, a lot of people are wondering, what does interactivity mean? To me, it's like, is it like learning how to walk? Is it, am I going to be like stupid if I don't learn how to be interactive or something? You know? And interactivity is not one thing. Interactivity, I think, ideally is supposed to allow you to be passive if you want, and have the machine do all the work, or you can be very active like our young Game Boy types, you know, and jerk around the old joystick constantly and have it still kind of respond to you. So I'm going to kind of walk you through these steps from more or less passivity to full interactivity. Yeah. The first thing that happens when you put in the disc and start it up and play. Oh, we don't have the disc. There's a problem. Oh, thanks. Okay, well, it's best to start from the beginning. Put the disc in the tray, close the machine, push the button. And it'll go out there and thrash the disc a little while, load in some graphics and some computer programs and other data, load in a little bit of sound, and then it'll start playing, I think. Of course, you all recognize that much so far, right? If you don't do anything else, it's going to act just like the regular non-interactive CD. And therefore, you can be as passive as you want. It's got little controller has transport controls on it, so you can pretend it's a CD player and not worry about any of the so-called interactivity parts. But boy, will you be missing something. All you have to do is push the button and the editor screen comes up. And this will allow you to specify your own preferences about the way you'd like the album to be performed. The first thing you might want to learn how to do is to control the program, what we call the program. A program essentially is a list of musical events. A musical event is like a verse or a chorus or a solo section, a bridge, something like that. And the album that came out, the CD, that is non-interactive, essentially is just a script, a series of musical events strung one after the other. And when I set out to do this thing, I figured I'd get some of my friends involved. And so we got Jerry Harrison and Don Was and Hal Wilner and Bob Clearmountain to do their own versions of the album, sort of in script form. In other words, it's just a list of musical events that you can use as a starting point. And you could consider it as 5 CDs running at the same time, and you can switch between any one of them whenever you want. So what you do is you move the little cursor over there. Let's hear what Don Was is up to now.
This is the light, I stand in the glare of I'm here and I'm there, but I'm always aware of
obviously some other place than I am.
Back of my mind.
Let's see what Jerry Harrison's up to.
Something divine.
Bob Clearmountain. And finally, in the back, give it up for Mr. Hal Wilner! Hal, of course, is somewhere where no one else would dare go, obviously. Unlike a regular CD, which always sort of plays in one direction, the advantage of having working from a list of musical events is you don't always have to go from the beginning to the end. You can theoretically listen to the album from the end to the beginning. In other words, we go here to the direction and say, I want to go backwards. Let's see what it sounds like. Of course, you would have to know what it sounds like forwards to know what it sounds like backwards, right? But take my word for it, we're going backwards. Another interesting thing you can do is actually stop in the middle of music and play the same musical event over and over again. That is indeed the same musical bit playing over and over again. This allowed me to show you a few other interesting things you can do. Let's go over here to the mix controls. What I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the range of selection here to one particular kind of mix. I do this by tightening up the slack. Now you might say that this would be our, let's see, a thick mix. Let's compare that with a sparse mix. Sounds a little sparser. Maybe sometime you bought one of my records, you say, I can't understand the words. So all you have to do is go here and drop out some of the instruments and get intimate. And of course, we have the ever popular karaoke version. Sing along, everybody, if you will. So you can listen to the whole album instrumentally and substitute your own dirty lyrics. Let's get back to normal here. Let me show you what you can do with mood. Again, I'm tightening up the slack. And let's find a dark song. This is a little too cheery for me. Jesus and money, take a man, speak in tongues, scream out his lungs, roll in the dung when the song is sung. He moves up another rung, and the death. Keep in mind, we're still listening to that same loop over and over again. Except that piece of music doesn't have to be dark, so the system went out and found a piece of music that conforms to the preferences that I've given it. Let's try something else. Tempo. You know, my records have never really been considered danceable. We're going to solve that right now. It's party time. Let's jack up the tempo. Faster. Hit it! Just play that piece over and over again because it's substituted for the other one. So we'll go back to our defaults here for a second. And I'll show you something else you can do. Perhaps you'd like to hear something that's almost totally random, so we'll go up here and we'll make you go through the script very fast forward. In other words, it's jumping around so fast it'll just go from theme to theme with almost no coherence, whatever.